Welcome back to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show. Got another Wednesday, and we got 5 more Milwaukee Brewers games to talk about, and we have some other things we're going to discuss today. We're going to do a quick update on the Brewers draft. I haven't gotten through all of the players to be able to go in depth and be like, this is what this guy is, and give you all the super in-depth notes. I do have that on some of these players, and then I just want to talk about the draft as a whole. And then after that, we can talk a little bit to open the show about the Bucks news that we have. And then we're going to end the show on a pretty strong topic. We're going to have a pretty big perspective shift. Mainly our inspiration for doing this now was for heading into the quote-unquote second half of the Milwaukee Brewers season, just as they kind of struggled heading into the All-Star break. And now they're coming out of the All-Star break. So we wanted to have a perspective shift. And we're going to be pretty broad with it because it's something we want to be able to review and come back to in the future. So definitely stick around for that. We're still going to do our recaps like normal. And we're going to get into everything. So here we go.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, so here we are. I think we should start with the Bucks. So I'm gonna let you talk about it because you've been banging this drum for like 2 years now. So yeah. I'm gonna let you give your thoughts and break the news that we're talking about.
Yeah. So wow. First of all, today's been a whirlwind, gotta tell you. Just got back from camping today. Real rough on the back, real rough on the shoulder area with the sunburn. Love you, son. You're super hot. That's great. Ouch. Lots of aloe, Barrier or whatever the hell you call it.
Oh yeah.
On the shoulders the last couple of days because they're pretty rough. But got the news yesterday of Gary Trent Jr. signing with the Bucks. I mean, if you could find a perfect replacement for a guy like Malik Beasley in that role, a guy who's going to be a defender, a guy who's going to shoot wide open threes and make them at a very high clip, a guy who's an athlete, and when you add in the fact that he played with Damian Lillard before, that is probably the most important part of this. Read a bunch of stuff. Doc Rivers was actually a very big part of this because he knew Gary Trent's dad. And he flew down and went and talked to Gary and his father to, recruit him to come to the Bucks.
Junior and senior.
Yep, junior and senior. So you're talking about a Bucks team that when you were looking at the signings, you're looking at DeLon Wright, right? You're thinking like, okay, that's a good signing. That's a good start. They get Taurean Prince, and you're thinking like, okay, it's coming together. There was one glaring hole, and it was at the starting 2 spot. And Gary Trent just absolutely fills that perfectly. You couldn't ask for a better guy to fill that role with the money they had for one. When you take all the considerations into it, the money they had, the need they had. I mean, playing with Dame. I mean, everything. It was a perfect signing, and it just made yesterday so much better because I was just out in the sun and I was just like, oh my god, I'm so sore. And I looked at my phone, and I remember texting you, and it was like an hour after it even happened. I looked at my phone. I was like, bro, is somebody tricking me right now? I texted you. I was like, dude, this is like Gary Trent Jr.? I didn't think we had a shot in hell, dude, honestly. I thought he was going to end up going to Philly, taking a little bit more money. They probably have more money to offer him, honestly. So, although, how much more money could they have? They signed everybody this offseason, so I don't even know. But we got him, and it's a great signing, man. How do you feel about it?
I'm pretty happy about it. I made a video. I don't know if you get a chance, you can scroll down and check on that. Looking at the Brewers. I'm already ready to switch modes, apparently. Looking at the Bucks additions, departures, how much younger they've gotten, and just what Gary Trent Jr. brings to the Bucks at the 3-point line. He is going to be pretty exclusively a catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter. Not an off-the-dribble shooter, but that's not what the Bucks need. They have that.
No. Yeah.
So having a guy who can catch and shoot as well as Gary Trent Jr. among the best shooters in the NBA. If you wanted somebody like Buddy Hield, we got a younger, better version.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that the hopes, obviously on a 1-year deal for Gary Trent, I think the hope is that AJ Green can take over that role next year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to kind of force him into a starting role that he maybe not be ready for yet.
Well, another year and another guy that AJ Green can learn from as well. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's actually, it's productive because he's a guy who is a starter level player. I'm talking about Gary Trent Jr. right now.
Yep.
He's a starter level player, and he can also teach AJ Green. So, also, what up?
What's up, Dan? Okay, so let's go to the Brewers, and I just want to give some really quick thoughts on the draft.
Yeah.
So the Milwaukee Brewers, their first 2 picks, one being Braylon Payne at 17. He is one of the guys that I do have some research on. He's an outfielder. He was projected to go 54th, and people got really caught up in that. The Brewers are picking guys that are way above where they're projected to go. But the thing is that both of the Brewers' first 2 picks are below where they were projected to go, meaning that they are below slot value. So the Brewers can then offer these players who were projected to go later less money than the picks that they were projected to go in those spots, offer them less money to then save money to offer to other players later in the drafts to convince them to, say, sign with the Brewers instead of going to college.
Mm-hmm.
So the Brewers, the most notable recent example of this is going to be Cooper Pratt. Cooper is going to be the example of what the Brewers are doing when it comes to their drafts, because then they can draft a player later on who has higher talent, but other teams might view as a risk to go to college, where then the Brewers are saving on the earlier picks to then give money to those later high school picks and get better players later in the draft and be able to convince them to go pro right away instead of going to college. So Cooper Pratt is going to continue to be the poster child for what the Brewers are doing with that. Now, the first pick, Braylon Payne, he's a speed and contact hitter. He isn't even going to be 18 until next month. He believes, per his words, that he's a 5-tool player. I think he's more of a 4-tool player. I don't know that the power is there, but maybe it'll be something he develops as he matures.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then the other thing is that Braylon Payne could be the fastest player in the draft. So to me, he reminds me of Esteury Ruiz.
Ooh.
That's kind of where I'm looking. If you're looking for like a player comparison, he's fast, he can make contact, and he can play a good center field.
Okay.
The 34th pick, which completes the Corbin Burns trade, the Brewers picked Blake Burke. He is the first baseman from Tennessee. He has 70 grade power. But prospects are ranked on grades from 40 to 80, with 60 being the average. So he has above average power coming in. He batted 379, 449, 702 at Tennessee last year. He had a 31-game hitting streak at one point, so he's not just power or strikeout.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the SEC tournament MVP. So
did you see the video of him at the championship parade opening the beer with his mouth?
I did not see that.
I was like, he'll fit in just fine.
Yeah, he's ready. Call him up today. But now, so these 2 guys being the below slot picks opens the door, and one of them is already confirmed to have signed, is Bryce Meckage is the first one. Dude can already hit 95, 96 miles an hour. He was committed to Houston for baseball, and the Brewers have already confirmed signed him. So looking at the first 2 picks, we don't get caught up in, they're drafting guys too high, they're reaching for players. They're saving money that they can then offer to players later. The other one, I think this is going to end up being my favorite pick in this draft, is Chris Livonis. He's committed to Wake Forest, but he's super athletic. He has great extension. He has high spin and high velocity. If you watch, just look up Chris Livonis, his delivery is crazy. He is a super high leg kick, his extension is crazy. Just look him up. I'm excited to watch more and learn more about Chris Livonis. But just looking, Christopher, welcome. Looking at the Brewers draft as a whole, I have the rest of the players here. The Brewers' 19th round pick was from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, so got that. Looking at the Brewers draft, looking at the Brewers draft, they picked 22 players.
Yeah.
They took 17 pitchers.
They did do that.
They took 14 right-handed pitchers, 3 left-handed pitchers. 17 of their 22 draft picks were pitchers. So they're like, all right, we got this pitching lab over here, right? We're going to go ahead. We're just going to give you a bunch of new things to experiment with. And who knows what they can concoct.
The way I thought of it is like when the Packers are just drafting a bunch of linemen. It's like, okay, this is our strength. We want to keep it a strength forever. We just got to keep throwing stuff at this, you know? One of these are going to stick every year. We're going to stick one of these linemen every single year. And every year, if the Brewers stick one or two pitchers, you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, sustained success. I like that.
Yes.
The other two things, they drafted the first round pick, Braylon Payne. He was the only outfielder they drafted. They drafted two infielders, Burke being the first baseman, and they drafted a shortstop later on. And then they drafted two catchers as well. Kind of just refilling the depth in the organization at catcher.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, so let's talk some Brewer games. We can go to the Pirates series, games 2 and 3. Let's start with game 2. I don't know what you have for takeaways from that game.
Yeah, so game 2. 6th shutout of the year for the Milwaukee Brewers as they won this one 9-0. We had 2 home runs. We had 5 people with RBIs. And we had 6 2-out RBIs. So the 2-out RBIs, if you didn't realize this over last weekend, the Brewers took the lead over the Cleveland Guardians with the 2-out RBIs in Major League Baseball, not just in the National League, but all of baseball. They took the lead with 2-out RBIs. So if there's 2 outs on the Brewers, that doesn't mean that you get up and get a snack because they can go on a run.
Yeah.
You sit your arse down and you wait till they're done batting, okay? Because that might be the time that Hoskins decides to hit one 440 feet.
That is a thing that happened.
That is a thing that happens. So, just wanted to say they had a really good approach. We absolutely destroyed them in this game after they destroyed us in game 1. So it felt good to kind of get our get back with Paul Skeens looking to take the bump in Sunday's game, and everybody was kind of looking forward to that. But you know, the Brewers had a really good approach at the plate, especially with 2 outs, like I said, and basically everybody got a hit except Jake Bauers, who was a pinch hit, and Blake Perkins, but everybody else that batted got a hit.
Yeah, 8 of the 9 starters had hits. Everybody reached base. Blake Perkins did have 2 walks, and Jake Bauers drew a walk. So the guys that didn't have hits still got on base, so everybody got on base. Now, looking at the starting pitchers, Tobias Myers and Martin Perez, after the first inning, Perez had thrown 41 pitches, and Myers threw 16. Perez had 87 pitches after 4 innings. Tobias Myers didn't throw his 87th pitch until the end of the 7th inning.
Damn.
There was one point where Tobias Myers threw 16 straight strikes.
Wow.
Finished this game with 6 strikeouts, all 6 of them looking.
Wow.
That's nasty. Tobias Myers is now the only rookie starter in Major League Baseball to have multiple 8-inning pitched and 0 earned run games.
Yes, he is.
The guy on the other team hasn't done that,
which
is impressive. I think he will, but Tobias Myers, to this date, the only person who hasn't. Now, the other 2 things I wanted to call credit to, Big Z coming out of the bullpen, get a 5-pitch, 1-2-3 9th inning.
Yep.
Keeps the bullpen fresh. Love that. And then I wanted to give Rhys Hoskins credit for his offense and his defense. He made 2 great defensive plays in this game. One of them bought Tobias Myers another inning, in my opinion, by getting a 3rd out. And then the monster home run that he hit in the 5th inning, I do believe that Rhys Hoskins is slowly but surely going in the right direction.
It is.
All right, let's go to game 3. It is what it is. Let's just talk about it.
Okay, we're going to talk about it. Okay, first thing I'm going to say. All the people, okay, this is just like a flat out, just like baseball. This is not Brewers. This is baseball. All the people complaining about the Pirates taking Skeens out after 99 pitches are dumb. Sorry, I'm not holding back on that. You have a freaking Lamborghini. You don't drive the Lamborghini in snow. Meaning he is a stud. It's clear as day that he's a stud. He's one of the best pitchers in the National League already, in my opinion.
Probably going to win Rookie of the Year.
He's definitely going to win Rookie of the Year. He hits 100 on a regular basis. He throws a slider splitter. Is it a slider splitter?
They're calling it a splinker.
The splinker. That's what it was. Yeah, I was listening to it on the radio. I was like, the splinker. That's interesting. But he had a really good game against us, and the Brewers had opportunities. They hit some balls hard in the first inning. There was a really nice play by who the heck is their shortstop? O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz made a really nice play against Contreras in the bottom of the first, where that could have been a hit if it's not a freaking web gem play.
Mm-hmm.
So people freaking out about being no hit through 7 innings. Calm down. It happens. It happens to everybody.
Yep.
I don't know how many times we have to say on here, but there's 162 games. If it's going to happen in baseball, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen to somebody.
Point blank, period. And Skeens is a stud. The point I wanted to make about Skeens is everybody remembers Steven Strasburg. Okay? Steven Strasburg had just as much hype. He was throwing gas. He had the slider, the changeup. He had all that coming out. And he got injured. And then he got injured. And then he got injured. And he got injured. And he never could get over it. And it sucked because he was looking like he was going to be a generational player.
Yeah.
He would have been fun to watch just from a fan perspective of enjoying the sport of baseball. He would have been awesome to watch. You don't need that happening to another guy.
That's
okay?
a really good.
That's a really good. Pirates did the right thing. Tyler, that is true. That is true.
And Christopher, he did, but the thing is, he's going to be brought up as one of the what if guys.
He is.
He could have had
his debut.
They could have had more than one ring. They wouldn't have traded Soto if that team was going to continue competing. I mean, they paid Patrick Corbin way more money than he rightfully should have been paid, so that was not a good organizational decision. But that team had good players. They had Bryce Harper. I'm pretty sure they had Trey Turner, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look it up to make sure that I'm correct, but I'm fairly certain they had Trey Turner.
No, the Nationals, and they have some – we're going to talk about them in a second here.
Yeah, they had Trey Turner too when they won the championship. So they had Trey Turner and Bryce Harper and Juan Soto and Steven Strasburg, and they had – I'm fairly certain they had Max Scherzer at one point.
They did, I think, if I remember that correctly.
I just want to fact check myself again because they had Max Scherzer. He was part of their championship team as well. He was there from 2015 to 2020. So, they had great players on that team.
Yeah.
I think Steven Strasburg, I think that is a very good cautionary tale to bring up.
He could have, dude, honestly, let's be real. After his first start, everybody was like, oh, shit. Yeah. This guy is going to be the man. And it sucked that he had a lot of the nagging injuries with the elbow and all that other stuff. But it is what it is. But in my opinion, the Pirates did the right thing taking him out, being cautious. You want this guy to last 10 years. Not at 10 minutes, right? That's really what you're looking for, And it is what it is for the Brewers. They got no hit through 7. Paul Skeens is good, bro. He's doing this to everybody.
And it's not like they pulled him out with 79 pitches.
Yeah, it was 99.
The benchmark is 100. That's what it is.
Yeah. But, I just had to say this. It's people are going to not remember Savali's start because of what Skeens did, and I don't want that to happen because Aaron Savali was having a crazy start too. What'd he go? He went 6 1/3, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 6 Ks on 100 pitches. If you're going into that game as a Brewers fan, that's outstanding, especially with all the crying with – bro, I can't tell you how excited I am to have this conversation after we talk Brewers, but – it's necessary with how much people bitched and complained about when we traded for Savali in the first place, and then he has a start like this of 6 1/3 with only 1 earned run. It's like, dude, what more are you looking for a guy that came over with a 5 ERA and everybody cried to their grandma about it? It's I don't know what we're looking for here, but he had a great start too. So let's not forget about that. It's not like he got shelled and gave up 10 runs. This is what pitcher go. This is an old school game. Both teams played their hearts out.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Brewers had 9 straight home series wins. So losing this one 1-0, it is what it is.
Yeah. And they obviously lost the National Series as well. Nobody's talking about the fact that the Phillies lost the series to the Athletics.
Yeah, they got pounded a couple games.
They got beat 18-3 in the third game of that series.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the team that everybody has penciled in as the NL champion.
Weird how people do that with Philly teams for no reason.
Oh, going on a sidebar. I'm not trying to do that.
Sorry. I'm thinking
just the perspective on the Phillies getting demolished. I'm not trying to go at Philly right now. They'll get theirs
in September,
in October, in November. Okay, so Savali is a great point to bring up. He's really where our focus should be, instead of complaining about what Skeens did. Because as far as Paul Skeens is concerned, I love him. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
Just like O'Neal Cruz too. Like, he's awesome. I love O'Neal Cruz.
I agree.
They play for rivals, but they're awesome baseball players. And the bottom line is, when we talk about players like this, they are better for the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They make the game of baseball better by having good players.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect them. Paul Skeens also, on top of this, I had a conversation with my dad about this. Paul Skeens, he respects baseball. He got to Milwaukee. The first thing he wanted to do was meet Bob Uecker.
Yeah.
They talked about it during even the Brewers broadcast, the way that he prepares for his starts. Like, I respect Paul Skeens. He respects the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do nothing but respect that. Now, looking at Aaron Savali went toe-to-toe with him.
He did.
Through the first 3 innings, Savali had 5 strikeouts. Skeens had 7. Through the first 3 innings, Savali had 42 pitches, and Skeens had 63. Savali pitched very, very well through his 6 1/3 innings. Now, the Brewers, their approach changed. They changed what they were doing, and they shouldn't have. Through the first 3 innings, the Brewers were doing really good, battling at bats. They had Skeens averaging 21 pitches an inning, and then they started swinging early in counts a lot, which resulted in a lot fewer strikeouts, sure, because Skeens had 7 through the first 3 innings, but it also allowed Paul Skeens to throw a lot fewer pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So he threw 63 pitches in the first 3 innings. That's an average of 21 pitches an inning. He only threw 36 pitches for the next 4 innings. That's an average of 9 pitches per inning. There's a clear change in approach from the first 3 innings to the next 4.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler said stud pitcher, sick mustache, and Livy Dunn. What's not to like about Skeens? Plus requesting to meet Bob just boosted his likability. Might be biased there though. I'm not mad at it. Like, all those are perfectly valid points. Even aside from meeting Bob Uecker, like, if he was requesting to meet any baseball legend player like that because they respect the game, I respect players that do that. Like, it's a respect thing. They're giving their respect to the game. As a fan of the game, I have nothing but respect to give back to it.
Yeah, I think you have those in the wrong order, Tyler, if I was going to be nitpicky. But, yeah, definitely requesting to meet Bob Uecker, dude. That when I saw that, I was like, oh, damn, dude, I really like this guy. Sucks that he's going to be on the Pirates for 6 years before he goes to New York or LA.
Yeah, right?
It is what it is, dude.
And just to really like bring home the approach thing, looking at, and I'm really sorry that I'm going to single out William Contreras here. I'm sorry. I love William Contreras. He was an all-star. He deserved to be. And I've said at points during this season, earlier in the season, that he should be among the MVP candidates.
Mm-hmm.
But I have one small sample size, one at bat. He got up 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th with the bases loaded and 2 outs. And he swung at 2 sweepers that were outside the zone to strike out. That's where we need William Contreras to be at his best. And in this game, he just wasn't.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say that William Contreras sucks or he doesn't deserve any of the nice things that we've said about him through this point of the season, because he absolutely does. And he is absolutely capable of being the player that he was in April and May, in August and September. And I believe he's capable of being that player. And I will cheer for him to return to being that player. Just a tough at-bat for him.
Yeah, great.
Okay, let's go to the National Series and let's start with Game 1.
Game 1. Ah, man. Freddie just tied career high with hits given up, man. And it sucks to say, but he needed the All-Star break pretty badly.
When you finish talking about Freddie, I want to jump in with my thoughts about Freddie right away too, because I have very similar thoughts.
Yeah, he's just a guy I think that put a lot of pressure on himself at the beginning of the year. You know, with no Woodruff, getting rid of Burns, he was like, "I'm the ace. You know, this is what I've been working for. I have this kind of stuff. They've been telling me that I'm a third ace on this team, and I don't know exactly what they've been saying, but I have heard fans say it, and I've thought that to myself.
Mm-hmm.
At points last year in August, I was like, dude, we got 3 aces.
Yeah, the stuff is there. He won NL Pitcher of the Year last August. It's not a fluke.
He did. So for him, I think he came in with a lot of pressure. Some things snowballed. He gave up some soft contacts in some games that we have talked about. We went over. What's up, Brett? How you doing, buddy? But tying a career high in hits given up, the Nationals, dude, they're an interesting team, man.
I like CJ Abrams too. God.
Yeah, and it sucks. We're gonna talk about a game where
it's annoying because it's becoming like how we do the NFL draft and we do all the studying on all the players and stuff, and then I end up liking a bunch of players that go to other teams. It's starting to happen to me in baseball too.
It sucks, right? But
I don't want other teams to have nice things. I want them all.
So if I was gonna give credit, I'll wait. Hang on. Okay, so that's all really I have on Peralta. He did battle. He had the 0 walks, which was good, and the 6 strikeouts, which was also good. But the 10 hits, I mean, what do you got, man?
Oh, Brett's just living in the throes. He's gonna have 2 kids, 2 young ones, in August. That's gonna be a lot. Enjoy that, buddy. I hope your kid's born on August 13th. That's a pretty great day. Okay, so just on Freddie specifically. His spin and his break was down on multiple pitches for the second straight start. So when you brought up the point of thinking that Freddie Peralta needs the All-Star break, I strongly agree. Just to get back fresh. Just needs a reset button, which is what we are going to do when we're done talking about these Brewer games. We're going to hit a reset button. And it's going to be applicable for fans of August 13th. Let's get it.
That's Tyler's birthday, if you guys didn't figure that out yet.
The perspective shift that we're going to do is going to apply to any fan of any team, of any sport, of anything. It doesn't have to even just be for sports. The things that we're going to talk about because we see them through the lens of sports and sports fandom, and that's why we are the way that we are with our shows.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really going to be broadly applicable to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, August 13th. It's a Tuesday this year, unfortunately, but I was born in 93 on August 13th, and that was a Friday the 13th. So.
Oh, I did not know that part. Whoa, I'm learning.
You didn't know, dude, my first tattoo was a 13.
Well, I knew you were I didn't know you were born on a Friday the 13th, man.
That's why I have a make your own luck tattoo, because I was born on Friday the 13th.
Look at this. I'm learning stuff about my best friend live. Here we go.
17 years later. Brett was born on a different day.
No, you weren't, dude. No, you weren't. I don't believe you.
Jake was born on June 9th.
No, I was not. I was born September.
Okay. So getting back to Freddie Peralta, I do think he needed the All-Star break to get back fresh. And I think that's actually what the Brewers' aim was when they first put in Savali into the starting lineup. Starting rotation. They moved Freddie Peralta back a day when they inserted Savali into the rotation. So I think that's what the Brewers were trying to do too, is trying to give him a little bit of extra time and get him fresh. Mm-hmm. So Brett's doubling down. That makes Brett older than me, so there's that. LOL. But anyways, what else did you have on this game?
Just wanted to give credit to the Brewers. I mean, they started this game down 3-0. They gave up some runs in the top of the 4th inning, gave up 2 runs in the top of the 4th inning to get to 3-0. And I really wanted to give the position players credit for responding in the bottom of the 4th inning to keep this game close. Adames had a double that scored Contreras, and Frelick had a double that scored Adames to make it 3-2. So I thought the mental toughness while going through a tough stretch to respond after giving up a couple runs to try to pick up their ace, pick up their teammate. I mean, I thought that was something that was noteworthy in my opinion. They didn't really do much after that, and that's added a couple, but it is what it is. I just thought that was noteworthy.
Yeah. And Brett, that's a good point. They keep fighting. So looking at the top of the 7th inning, I saw some people saying Garrett Mitchell should be laying out for the blooper. it is what it is. Honestly, when you're looking at a bloop single, it's still going to be the runners are still going to score. The runs that score are still going to score if he dives or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tough thing because obviously staying healthy is a concern for him because he's only been back for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
like 11 games or something.
But if you are fully healthy, like I say, full send, but that's so much easier for me to say from a couch through a computer looking at a screen on a podcast. It's so much easier for me to say, just as much as it is for me to play a softball game and have one and see a sinking ball and be like, shit, am I going to be able to catch it? Shit, am I not going to be able to catch it? Shit, if I dive, how many runs are going to score? It's really, really easy to be like, well, this is what you should have done, and then assume that that's what was going to happen.
There's a saying that said easier said than done, right? That's a thing? That's a thing? Oh, okay. Just making sure. Still rings true.
Yeah. It's tough to see the bottom of the lineup. The 6 through 9 hitters go 0 for 16 with 9 strikeouts. The days that the Brewers are at their best is when everyone is contributing.
Yeah.
Of those 5 players, including 1 pinch hitter, 2 of them are rookies. One of them is a second-year player, so you're looking at basically rookies and young guys. I think we should be expecting inconsistent production from them. We're going to see that. That's just how it goes sometimes. It just unfortunately happened that all of them were struggling on the same day. But you're looking at young players, rookies, second-year players. They're going to have struggles. They're not going to be the Contreras, Christian Yelich consistency that we're seeing from league veterans.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some inconsistency there. And even after that, like you look at players like Willie Adames, who's a veteran of the league, he's still a streaky player. Rhys Hoskins is a streaky player. Like, streaks are going to happen. That's why you have to look at a broad sample size to get really the totality of everything instead of saying, oh, Willie Adames sucks from August 10th to August 15th. Like, oh, my God, he's so terrible. And then August 15th, August 20th, he hit 3 home runs. And like, oh, my God, Willie Adames is the best shortstop in the Major League Baseball. Like, you just need to look at all of them and be like, this is the totality of their work and say, okay, now we can judge them as a player based on their entire body of work instead of just this small section.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have some conversations like that in a little bit. But out of anything else from game 1, it is good to see Yoel Payamps bouncing back. I am very much pulling for him to continue to do so. So let's go to game 2. And we can look at the beginning of this game, Christian Yelich and Bryce Terang getting rare off days.
Yeah.
And Sal Frelick growing a goatee that he shaved off 2 days later. I wish he would keep it because it looks good. Get him a little bit of a goatee going there. But looking at the Brewers again, the top of the first inning, their plate discipline was pristine. They drew 46 pitches from the national starter, and he got pulled out of the game.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing to Skeens. They had him 63 pitches through 3 innings. It's like, shit, is Skeens going to be able to go 5? And then they ended up going 7 because the approach changed. Tyler, that's absolutely accurate. Some fans don't seem to understand streaks, love them when they're hot, want to trade them when they're not. That's the volatile nature of sports fandom, and we, as Jake and I as Wisco Fanatics, and Simon and Bryant and Mike by extension, are really trying to get people to smooth that out and not ride the roller coaster so high, because it's the same with the teams as a total. You know, a team goes on a 4-game losing streak, and then a team goes on an 8-game winning streak, and just got to be balanced. Okay. Dallas Keuchel did throw some bad pitches and had some bad defensive luck. It is what it is. We talked about Dallas Keuchel when he was released, DFA'd from the team. Our post said what we were thinking. He was here to eat innings. The Brewers got him for $1. He helped get him to the All-Star break. And to me, my biggest takeaway from Dallas Keuchel being DFA'd was that it means to me that the Brewers believe that their starters are going to be healthy after the All-Star break.
100%.
That was my biggest takeaway.
Yep.
As far as anything else goes, Rhys Hoskins made some more really nice defensive plays, which is good to see. Jacob Junis did a really good job to end the 4th inning and pitch the 5th and the 6th. He's starting to add innings, so I think he is going to be a factor in the starting rotation after the All-Star break. And then Trevor McGill going for a 4-out save for the first time since early April. He hasn't pitched since Sunday. He doesn't suck for blowing a save. It's the first time since May 28th that he's blown one, and he's 18 for 20.
Yep.
So Trevor McGill does not suck. He's borderline an all-star this year, and sometimes you're going to lose games that it looked like you were going to win.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
it is.
So what did you think from game 2?
Obviously, the Brewers went out 5-0 in this game. So we all know that, right?
Yep.
They ended up giving a home run to Abrams in the 9th. That was the blown save. And if it wasn't against the Brewers, I'd have been like, dude, that was gangster what you just did, looking at your bench after you hit the ball. That was sick. It happened against us. Again, it's going to happen. The Brewers hitters in innings 2 through 9. 2 hits. Frelick had an infield single in the 3rd. That infield single was then followed by a walk by Monasterio. The Brewers had 2 on with 1 out. Perkins and Haas ended up striking out swinging. The other hit was an Adames single in the 5th. The hitters between innings 2 through 9 had 10 Ks. They struck out 10 times. They didn't have a good game outside of the first inning. Like you said, they had a good approach with the starter. Got him out of the game early. They were up 5-0. Things were humming. We were looking like we were going to even this series up, and then I don't know. The wheels just fell off. The approach. They started to press. I don't know what went wrong really, but the 10 Ks through 8 innings and the 2 hits, it's not a good look. So obviously they fixed it because we know.
And even after all of that, they were still this close to Joey Ortiz hitting a walk-off homer.
Yeah. I didn't even write that in there, but I forgot about that, man. Yeah. That was
He
really nice
close. Dude made a
nice
jumping
catch.
catch against the wall. He was this close to hitting a walk-off home run.
That sucked. I wish he would have. That would have been so sick.
That would have been amazing. All right, let's go to game 3. What stood out to you from the finale from the National Series?
All right. So, game 3, the Brewers ended up popping off in this one. Won this one 9-3. 9-3 is a much better date than 8-13, in my opinion. Had to throw that in there, buddy. But they had, Adames had a crazy game. Contreras contributed with an RBI. Ortiz and Mitchell had 2 RBIs. Or for our buddy there, G Money, 4 2-out RBIs again, so more 2-out RBIs. Adames, Contreras, Mitchell all had home runs in this one, and they started this one with a bullpen guy starting the game again. Man, I don't know what the heck is going on here, but that seems to be the thing that they do this year. That's like a Pat Murphy special. I'm gonna start calling that a Pat Murphy special. Big Z started this one when an inning and a third. Extended Colin Ray and deeper into this ball game. He ends up going 5 2/3. Excuse me. Milner gave up a run in an inning again. So hopefully the break he was able to figure something out, man. Okay. I was trying to save some of this perspective stuff for like later, but I want people to understand. Like I really mean this right now. When you're bitching about all these guys. You know it's a positive when they're good for us, right? Like they play for our team. Like Hobie Milner is on the Brewers. Payamps is on the Brewers. Piguero is on the Brewers. So if you want them to suck so they get rid of them, who the hell are we replacing them with?
That's some weird energy to begin with.
It is beneficial to us this year for all you guys that are like championship and bust. It is beneficial for us if they're good now. Now, we talked briefly because we weren't able to really – I didn't really get to check anything for the last couple of days. I was camping. So, I just was able to see who they drafted and read the names and kind of read little tidbits on them. We weren't able to get deep into the draft. But we drafted a lot of pitchers. So, eventually down the road, we might hear some of those names.
All right.
Some of those guys may never even sniff the major leagues.
Yep.
But – with the Brewers farm system, they definitely will. I think they're gonna get coached up correctly. There'll be trade pieces. Maybe we pretty them up for somebody, and we get a shortstop in the future that we need. I don't know, but right now we need Hobie Milner.
Yep.
Right now we need Joel Payamps.
Yeah,
we need Elvis Piguero. We need those guys right now. The National League is wide open, in my opinion. The Dodgers suck in the playoffs. It is what it is. You can spend $700 million all you want. They don't get it done in the playoffs. Okay? Ohtani doesn't really have a history in the playoffs to begin with. I mean, he was stuck on the Angels, but he doesn't really have a history in the playoffs. So he's very inexperienced when it comes to playoff at-bats. You get over to the Phillies are the lead horse, and they should be. But that's really where it ends. The Braves, they're without their MVP, without their best player. Chris Sale is kind of having a resurgence season for them. But outside of that, man, the Brewers have a shot, dude. They're young. They're the fastest team in baseball by far, in my opinion. So if we get this bullpen right, and we have to use our bullpen the way that our starters are set up, if all these guys are good, that's good for us. And I don't know why I have to explain this.
On top of that, having more good relief pitchers only makes your options more flexible.
Exactly, dude.
You could have 3 insane studs.
Yeah.
Or you can have 9 guys that are all really well trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And the Brewers have some studs and then a bunch of guys that are well trusted.
Yeah.
That gives you flexibility. That gives you the opportunity to take a guy out when, maybe he's losing his stuff a little bit in the 5th inning or the 6th inning.
Mm-hmm.
That can only mean good things to have more trusted arms instead of having to use Brian Hudson every single day and having to use Trevor McGill every single day and having to use Devin Williams every single day. There are some teams that are like that they have like 3 guys they can trust in their bullpen, and then everybody else, it's like, okay, I hope they can keep this at the same score.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a big Z in that group as well. It only took him 6 pitches to get the first 4 outs of this game.
That guy pitches for contact, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he does. But looking at the Brewers bullpen, Yoel Payamps, 0 earned runs in 7 of his last 9 appearances.
Love that.
1 hit or less in 8 of his 9 last appearances.
Nice.
7 of his 9 appearances, he's given up 0 walks. And in 1 of them, it was 2 intentional walks. So I'm going to go ahead and say 8 of 9 of his last appearances, he hasn't given up any walks. I believe that Yoel Payamps is bouncing back. Tyler said, I feel Hobie Milner's usage dropped as of recent games. Could be wrong. From the beginning of the year, he was used almost daily. And 2, this was more in response to Brian Hudson, but Pat Murphy did say they want to be more judicious with the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy to keep an eye on who's going to be back after the All-Star break is Jared Koenig. Jared Koenig earned leverage. So, Tyler, I think that could factor in as well. Jared Koenig earned leverage by being an absolute monster for the Brewers this year.
Yep.
Just another reclamation project. Jared Koenig's 30. And then all of a sudden he gets to the Brewers and it's just like, oh, this dude's a stud? Like, why didn't anybody else figure that out? But the Brewers did.
They did. Chris Hook will always figure it out.
Dude, Chris Hook and Jim Henderson are the GOATs at this point.
It's not.
As far as pitching development goes, Chris Hook and Jim Henderson are the GOATs.
I don't know if they have like some different information or something like that, but they definitely know.
Dude, they got something. Looking at Colin Ray, 8 of his last 10 appearances now, 2 earned runs or less, and he threw 5 or more innings in all but 1. And he threw 7 strikeouts in this finale, 1 off of his career high that he just had on June 28th.
Nice.
So Colin Ray, very effective.
Nice.
Looking at the Brewers' offense, Willie Adames in the top of the first, a ground rule double on the 9th pitch of the at-bat. He fouled off 7 pitches in that at-bat. That gave the Brewers a 2-out run. Actually, that was the one that put them in the lead in Major League Baseball for 2-out runs. Garrett Mitchell hit a home run, 107 miles an hour off the bat, 420 feet. That is a booming home run.
He hit it hard.
He smoked the ball. The Brewers put 6 earned runs on Irvin and raised his ERA from 3.13 to 3.49.
That's a huge jump at this point in the year.
At this point of the season, yeah, when you're talking about 100 games in, that's a massive jump. This was actually his second 6 earned run game in a row, so kind of a rough time for him. He needed the All-Star break. Lastly, on the offense, Bryce Terang stole second base in the bottom of the 8th. That was his 30th stolen base before the All-Star break. So my question, where do you think Bryce Terang finishes with stolen bases? 40, 45, 50? I have the pace.
That's tough because all right. I'm just gonna throw a number out there that I'm gonna take a really educated guess here. So what are we at? We're at 97 games. Okay. 97, right?
97 is correct, yes.
I'll say 40, 43. 43 stolen bases.
He's on pace for exactly 50.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Really? Wow. I didn't want to say 50. I felt like that was too bold.
So if he hits 50, Jonathan VR in 2016 was the last time anybody was over 30.
Wow.
So that was Christian Yelich, obviously, because everything when it comes to big stats, the last person to do it was Yelich. So Bryce Strang is on pace to steal 50 bases. He'd be the first person to 50 since 2016. The last thing I want to say before we get into our perspective shift is the team hit 55 wins before the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
They were projected at 78.5. Mm-hmm. They're already 24 wins away from where they were projected to be. They were projected to be third in the NL. They hold a 4.5 game lead in first place. There are really not any expectations you could have had for the Brewers in March that they haven't met or exceeded by a long shot to where they are in July right now.
I mean, think about this. If the Brewers basically go 500, doing quick math, whatever, there's like, 64 games?
65 games left.
65. Okay, so you can't really cut it in half. But just say you can cut it in half, right? They would be on pace for like 90 wins right now. Just by going 500, they would have 90 wins.
If you gave them 33 wins and 32 losses in the last 65 games, they'd finish with 88 wins.
That's insane. Nobody thought we were going to touch that. That's if we kind of suck, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now, if they have 40 wins or 45 wins, dude, this team's good.
If they have 45 wins, you're talking about 100 games.
Yeah.
If they win 45 out of 65, they'd have to go 20 games. That'd be 25 games over 500. That's probably a little steep. I'm going to say probably 40 is a little more realistic. If they win 40 and lose 25, you're talking about a 95-win team. So they have 65 games left. If they win 41 out of 65, they tie the franchise record.
Without Corbin Burns.
And Brandon Woodruff.
Who's having a Cy Young kind of year, by the way.
He's great. We knew he was. But
Yeah.
Joey Ortiz is going to finish top 5 in Rookie of the Year. Jackson Trio should probably finish top 5 in Rookie of the Year. Not to mention the Brewers brought up a guy that they thought could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, and he had to have Tommy John surgery. The Brewers lost Robert Gosser. The Brewers lost the biggest veteran they had on the pitching staff in Wade Miley.
True.
We haven't had our all-star closer on the team at any point this season.
That could literally be the 35 right there.
We literally get to acquire an all-star closer on Saturday when the all-star break is up.
For free. We didn't do anything.
Exactly. Without having to give him up anything for him.
Nice.
So 41 is going to be the number that I'm tracking. Brewers win 41 out of 65 in the second half, and they tie the franchise record.
I'm with it.
41 ties it. 42 would be a new franchise record for wins. On a year that they were predicted to finish third in their division and win about 79 games total.
These people will never learn, man.
I forgot to mention what's next for the Brewers. We're going to have 5 games again next week. Mm-hmm. So we'll have 5 games. The Brewers have
2 Twins.
2 at Minnesota, Saturday and Sunday. Then they have 3 at the Cubs. Tuesday, we will have a watch party for that. So join us on Patreon for the watch party next Tuesday. And then next week, we're also going to do our trade deadline targets. I think we're going to split them up into offense, defense, starters, and bullpen.
Yep.
And that's how we're going to do that as far as the trade deadline goes. But yeah, that's where we're going to be at next week. So if you have nothing else, we can switch gears.
I do have to say, it's pretty crazy that we're going to go from Sunday to Saturday with no Brewers baseball, man. It's pretty wild. because I was looking at all the teams and I was like, oh yeah, crap, they only have a 2-game series with the Twins, so they don't get to come back Friday like everybody else. But it'd be nice to beat the crap out of a Minnesota team and then a Chicago team next week. So
I'm with that.
Just back to normal for us Wisconsin folks, you know?
Right. Okay. So now I'm going to give some disclaimers here. We are shifting. We're shifting into a different segment here. Now, again, this was originally inspired by the Brewers kind of stumbling into the All-Star break a little bit, people freaking out, overreacting to it, and us wanting to go into the second half, quote-unquote half, more like the second 40%, feeling fresh and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a perspective shift. That's what we're calling this. Now, I'm going to say this. We are going to try to keep this more broad. We're not going to be sitting here specifically going, this is why you need to do this about Willy Adames, or, this is about the second half of the Brewers. We're going to keep this more broad. These are things that we're going to be able to revisit, review, reuse, and continue to review and revisit at any point in time. This is something that we're going to do this. There was a lot of work put into this. Honestly, there's a lot of just work that we've done on ourselves that is going to go into this. Yeah. And it's going to show because this is going to be a little heavy. Not heavy to the point that it's going to we're trying to make people feel bad about themselves, but the content of this perspective shift that we're doing is going to be a lot of why we are the way that we are when we decided we were going to take our show from a perspective of optimism and positivity. There are other great shows that don't do that. There's other shows where you can just get information. There's some where you can get humor. There's some where you can get the teetering hot takes. And we do stuff like that sometimes. But we don't go off the deep end and go on rants about firing everybody and trading everybody. And we're going to go through some of the things that we've seen, some of the things we've experienced, some of the things that we've worked on, and then some of the things that we can all do moving forward. So this is going to be a little bit of a heavier section of segments here, but we're going to break this down into 4 sections. So the first section is negative takeaways. Jake, you can give me your thoughts, and then I will go through all of the things I have written down. I told Jake I have a lot, so I'm gonna let you talk first.
So my negative takeaway is my shortest section in this. I'm gonna start this off by asking you a couple questions, and I really want you guys to consider answering these before you post. 1, what good does this do? Not just for you, but for anybody else that you're involved with. So I really want you to ask yourself, when you're typing, I hate Willy Adames, why did he swing at that pitch 3 inches off the plate? He struck out, he sucks. And you click send. What does that do? Think about that. Next one. Is that how you handle adversity in your life? When you get a flat tire, do you just sit there kicking your car and acting like a toddler? Because I have one upstairs. I know how they act. They don't handle things with maturity and class and dignity. They don't do that. When their toy doesn't go together because they don't understand how it works, they just throw it on the ground and they cry for mommy or daddy or brother or whoever the heck is around until somebody comes and fixes their problem. Is that how you guys handle shit in life? I might cuss a few times because I'm going to be real. I apologize. But I am really putting my heart out here for you people right now. I'm going to be real with you. Completely transparent. Negative takeaways don't do anything for you. I'm going to answer that one for you. It doesn't do anything for you. You don't get yay, you figured it out. It doesn't do anything. You just sit in the same spot as you were before, and you're actually hurting yourself more than you're helping anybody. So when you do this kind of stuff and you have negative takeaways, I really want you guys to take a step back from your computer, from your phone, from the television, from whatever the hell technology you're around at that moment in time. Put it down and get away from it. Because you're not going to do anything good for anybody. Now, Tyler, the floor is yours.
I think negative takeaways, looking at the notes that I've brought for this, is actually my longest section.
Oh.
And I went through all of the notes that I've taken over the last 2.5, 3 years that Jake and I decided we were going to do this from this perspective. Books I've read, podcasts I've listened to, research I've done, and I put all of that into this. I went through all of my notes that I've taken from everything that I've taken in over years. So first is Dr. Joe Dispenza suggests that people spend up to 70% of their lives anticipating negative outcomes.
Wow.
In the book Enigma of Reason, reasoning is defined in two ways: its goal or its process. So just to Jake's point to what he just said, if or when you're about to post a negative takeaway, a negative thing, a negative post of any sort, ask yourself, what goal or process are you trying to accomplish? Ask yourself that question, and then ask if what you were going to say needs to be said. And I'm going to reference the book Enigma of Reason several times, and I didn't just look it up. I didn't just look up the book and find out, some takeaways. I read this fucker. And it took me a while because it made my brain hurt because of how much it really made me spend time to think about what I'm reading and thinking about how I'm going to apply it. This bitch is thick.
That's a big old boy.
Like I said, I didn't just go on Reddit and look for some people's takeaways from this book. I have it. I read it. Also in that book, the authors say that it stands that most people's reasoning is intuitive inference. That means that they often take things at face value based on the first few bits of information that they see. Jake and I have opposed this type of knee-jerk reaction. Only taking things at face value. Only saying that because of this one event that this is the finality of this person, this team, series, whatever. There's often a lot more things to consider than the immediate result of that play or that game or that series or that season or that life event than what is just immediately presented to you. Jake and I call that context. Next thing is being constructive is the most important part of evaluation. Instead of asking why this person is a loser, focus on how this person could become a winner when you're looking at mistakes. Now, the key word there is constructive. It has the word construct in it. You're building, you're growing, constructing, constructive. All of the we need to trade Pat C bullshit, that's not constructive. Next, I would ask people who are posting these negative takeaways, imagine people pointing the pessimism that you are throwing at sports teams at you. And then getting on your case for your performance or the choices that you've made, thinking that they know better than you and what's better for you.
Interesting.
And then ask yourself, what do you think feels better? Focusing on a negative outcome and it happening, or remaining optimistic in it happening? Being right about a negative prediction is a really twisted way to seek satisfaction. Anything easier to do carries a smaller reward. Being right about a negative prediction is going to carry a smaller reward. You are essentially choosing to have a smaller piece of happy chemicals in your brain by a negative thing happening and waiting for the positive result to rescue you. What that is doing to you then, even if the good thing happens, you're what? Happy? Glad? You're glad that the team, was able to win? As opposed to being from the optimistic perspective, then the good thing happens, then what kind of emotions do you think you're feeling? Elation, being overjoyed. Those are the types of things that you can glean from being optimistic and the good thing happens. You can be thrilled instead of just happy or glad because the negative thing that you were thinking about didn't happen. So to go from this to the next section, we have talked about this before on our show a lot. Your negativity, when put on display, it negatively affects other people as well. that is something that we feel very strongly about. And Jake, we can talk about what complaining can do to mental health.
Well, it's not good. It might be one of the worst things that you could do to yourself, honestly. And you're not even like considering it just for yourself, but everybody around you, right? Now, this goes to everybody who has kids, who has little baby cousins, coworkers, your spouse, anybody that you are around on a daily basis almost. They are affected by this. They are affected by your attitude. If I'm talking right now and you in your life have never had one coworker that you hated just because of their attitude, you're a liar. Do you think your kids want to be around that? Do you understand why you didn't get invited to that wedding? I'm being serious right now. That's real. People don't want to be around certain people because of their attitudes. And if you think that, oh, I'm just trolling online, if that doesn't, slowly start to become who you truly are as a person offline, you're lying to yourself. A lot of people that comment on these sports pages need to have some hard looks in the mirror. Expecting perfection from human beings when themselves haven't achieved perfection. There's a reason I don't act like I know everything, because I damn well know I don't. I don't even read most of the damn names right most of the time. And you know what? It's kind of become a shtick of this show. It is what it is. But I'm still going to come up here and I'm going to read the funny ass names because I know that that's what I do. Okay? Now, there was a video I saw from a Navy SEAL. And in there, he asked a question in the middle of his speech. If you can't control your emotions, how can you control anything? And I want that to really, really ring with a lot of people. If you're watching a football game and the Packers give up a touchdown or the Badgers give up a touchdown and you lose your cool. If you can't control your emotions about your football team giving up a touchdown, you have some much more deep-rooted issues than you realize. Now, he goes on to say that losing your temper is a weakness. And I got to tell you, I don't know if there's anything I've ever agreed with more. It shows you can't control your emotions. You are admitting it very loudly and in a very immature way. What you need to do in these situations, instead of screaming and kicking because this cornerback got beat on a go route, you need to take a deep breath and realize that, one, it's a game. When you realize that, you're going to collect yourself and you're going to be your true self. So I really want people to, not just with sports, but in general, don't lose your cool, man. Because when you're angry, you're not going to make good decisions. And if you make bad decisions, you're going to be a bad person. And I truly believe that everybody has the opportunity to be a good person. So let's just keep our cool, take deep breaths, and relax, okay? It's just sports. It's just sports. We're going to be okay. Go ahead, buddy.
And we'll talk about this too, and I kind of mentioned in the beginning, but a lot of the things that we're going to say are reasons that we, as sports podcasters, have taken this approach, is because you can apply a lot of these things to life after you learn them through the lens of sports. Sports is an easy place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what I said about people's negativity, the way you post it, broadcast it, and it can affect other people. No one has ever made a friend, made money, or accomplished anything worthwhile by broadcasting bad news. There's a psychologist and a research professor at Tufts University that stated that confirmation bias can contribute to depression, among other things. With confirmation bias, only acknowledging information that fits your viewpoint, and you're essentially reinforcing in your brain that that's how things are. So if you're coming from a negative perspective of, you make a general statement like this team is never going to win a World Series, or this team isn't a true contender, or this team wasted this player's prime, you continue to say things like that, you are reinforcing it in your brain, and then it's going to make it that much harder to be a positive person. So the more that you focus on those things that only fit that narrative of this team's never going to do this, this player is never going to do this, I am never going to do this, your brain is going to continue to find things to prove you right. And it's only going to lead you down a path that's going to make things harder for you. And that's where depression comes. And it's harder to get out of things that you've been doing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
After so much negative reinforcement, eventually that's not going to be enough to satisfy your negative mindset. It's not going to be enough to only make yourself miserable. Then it's going to start at some point progressing into making you feel a need to make others feel miserable too.
Mm-hmm.
There's the phrase misery loves company, and it's a real thing. It's part of the reason why people post negative takeaways is to have people agree with them to reaffirm their shitty attitude. That's a big reason of why people do it. So to that point, I will say, and Brett, if you're watching, we've had this conversation before about protecting your energy. If you are working on your mindset to be a more positive person, protect your energy until you are to a point where you know that you can protect your energy regardless of what other people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's not going to spiral you back down, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come back to this in another segment. But living as a pessimist can not only affect your mental health, but it can affect your physical health as well. Living as a pessimist can actually increase your risk of stroke.
Oh my God.
That's just more stress you're putting into your body and just more pressure that you're putting on your body and living in a place that is not good for your health, mental and physical.
Jeez.
So that said, we're having these conversations. We're saying these things. Jake and I are not just saying this to talk down to people. We are saying this from a perspective of this is where we started. This is where we've gotten to. Jake and I didn't just wake up and we're positive one day. Jake and I started from having a love of sports, loving SportsCenter when we were teenagers and wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we shifted our perspective to a more positive and optimistic perspective. And now we are trying to share that with others because we care about the people who are fans of the same teams that we are. Because we identify with them. We identify with Packers fans, with Brewers fans, with Bucks fans, with Badgers fans. Most of our friends and family are those things.
Mm-hmm.
So we care about those groups of people because we are parts of those groups of people.
Yes.
We are not here to talk down to people. We are here to tell you we have worked on these things. You can too. And imagine if all of us as Wisconsin sports fans could be more positive people, what that could do for the people around us, people in our families, the people in our fan bases, the people in our state, and maybe someday we get large enough that we can grow into other markets and be able to have a Minnesota Fanatics and be able to do that and be able to grow as a country and as a fucking people.
Man. Jeez, freaking vote for us, dude. Vote for Wisco, dude. Vote for Wisco. We're not old enough yet. Maybe next election.
Yeah, well, you might be.
I'll be old enough next election. I'll just hit the cusp.
All right, talk about some of the work that you've done, that we've done.
Okay, so as you've heard, I was camping this last weekend, and I had a moment where I was having a fire, and I was sitting there by myself for a few minutes where I really got to think about this, like deeply. And I think it comes down to two things: patience and living in the now. Those are the two things that I came away with that I was like, this is what I've worked on, and this is what has led me to become the person that I am. Now, living in the now, okay, I'm okay, is a really tough subject for me, man, because I'm always a person, especially in the world of sports, where you're always looking forward to Packers start soon. Like, everybody's talking about the Packers start on Monday.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to Monday. Monday gets here. All of a sudden, boom, we have an episode. We have another Packer episode. We have our other Packer episode. And then we have a Badger episode. And then we're in the middle of the Badger and Packer season, and it's freaking snowing outside, and there's a foot of snow. And before I know it, I just had 3 months of my life go by. What does that do for me? Nothing. I'm missing my daughter growing up. My daughter is a beautiful 3-year-old little girl. She is super smart. I love everything about her, man. She has completely changed me as a human being. I have an 11-year-old son. That kid can do whatever the hell he wants, man. He picks up a controller, he can play any game. He picks up any ball, a hockey puck, I guarantee that kid could become a pro hockey player. That kid is just athletically good. He just understands angles. He's so smart. He's good at math. I mean, living in the now is really because of my kids. And if you have kids and you haven't learned that, you're missing out. The other thing that kids have taught me is patience. And I had absolutely zero. If you met Jake 5 years ago, zero patience. I didn't like waiting for anything. And I would say I'm probably out of 100, I'm probably at a 30. So still lots of work to do, but I've learned a lot about patience. And I'm going to come back to patience in a little bit here. But kids and having big goals are two things that'll teach you patience. And Tyler and I, we don't shy away. We have big goals. And we're going to have lots of people that tell us we can't do it. Lots of people tell us that we're stupid and we're fools and we're everything under the sun. That's okay. Because when I tell you to shut the f up, when I'm sitting on top of that goddamn mountain with my best friend, it's going to feel real goddamn good me shouting down to you. Because we're going to get there. And I believe that truly. But patience and living in the now, I think, are two things that a lot of people need to know how to do. I'm going to come back to patience with the next segment.
So my section in this, it ties into what I said when we were going from the complaining segment to where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a quote by René Descartes, the French philosopher. He said, "The diversity of our opinion arises not from the fact that some of us are more reasonable than others, but solely that we have different ways of directing our thoughts and do not take into account the same things." So again, Jake and I are not claiming to be better or smarter than other people. However, we are putting in the work every day to be better and smarter than we were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working to do our work that we are doing in ways that are going to better our mental health and for the health of those around us. You can want all the good things for people around you, but to a point you have to be a little bit selfish and understand that the best version that you can put forward of yourself will make things better for those around you. You can do everything around for the people around you and do great things, and that's great. But if you are only giving somebody a 40% version of yourself, their lives will not be as good as they can be if you are able to put your best self forward for the people around you.
Yeah.
Not to mention what it can do for you, but you have to be at least a little bit selfish to be able to work on yourself, to be able to put the best version of yourself forward for the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the enigma of reason, they say in the book, reasoning is aimed at truth. Good decisions should be impartial, objective, impersonal arguments. So one, this is why we believe that if we are in a debate of something, that if somebody makes a personal remark towards us or takes a shot at the show, that we believe we've already won the debate. Two, this is something I already said in the previous segment, something we've stated often, facts over feelings.
Yeah.
It has to be facts over feelings. If you're feeling particularly passionate about something, I just want you to take 5 minutes and fact check yourself. Because obviously we've seen the examples of people going off the deep end and being, doing Willie whiff and complaining that Willie Adames strikes out too much. And then the next Wednesday, Jake and I come on and we say, here you go. He's actually striking out less than the average Major League Baseball player. He's whiffing at fewer pitches. He's chasing fewer pitches than any point in his career. What you said literally makes no sense. Fact check yourself. And I will say that there is a difference between being optimistic and being a homer. There are differences there.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that Jake and I could put on as a tagline, you can be optimistic and realistic. Because if you go off the other side of the deep end, people can say, the Brewers are on a 12-game winning streak. The Brewers are going to win the World Series. They're better than everybody. They're never going to lose the game again in the entire history of Major League Baseball. That's what being a homer is. Giannis can go 12 for 12 in a game, and somebody's going to say Giannis is never going to miss another shot ever again in the history of his life. The Bucks are going to win back-to-back championships. That's what being a homer is. We are being optimistic and realistic. Not to mention, like I said, we are also trying to be knowledgeable and smarter than we were yesterday by learning the games that we're talking about better than we have to continue to be better. So just take some time to fact check yourself. So Tim, you're joining in right at the last segment here. This is my second longest segment, is how we can continue to improve moving forward. So Jake, the floor is yours again.
Okay. So how can we continue to improve? And this is where we're really talking about ourselves, but also we want to be able to help others, right? So I looked up the definition of patience so I could read it to everybody so you guys can learn how to practice patience. Patience definition: the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. So let's go back, okay? We're talking about the Navy SEAL, right? He says if you can't control your emotions, how can you control anything? What does that mean to you, right? I really want people to marinate on this, okay? And I'm putting this in there because the patience definition is to be able to accept and tolerate that kind of stuff. So if you lose your cool, you're not showing patience. And if you're not showing patience, you're not being your true self. So you need to continue to work on patience and become truly who you're supposed to be. Now, some people are lazy when it comes to this kind of stuff. And if that's how you want to be, then that's how you want to be. That's fine. But I have kids watching me every day. And I'll be goddamned if I'm going to raise these kids for 18, 19, 20, 30 years, because they're going to be asking me questions when they're 30 years old. I ask my dad questions all the time. I'm 31. I don't know everything. I'm still learning right now. My dad's already been 31. He knows what the hell to expect. So if I ask him a question, he's going to answer because I got a great dad. So my kids are going to ask me questions. And I'll be damned if I don't at least put them in the right direction. So I'm trying to become the best version of myself so that Winter, my daughter, Aiden, my son, always have somewhere to go. And they have a great example of what a man is supposed to be. And that could be something that I can set for both of them, because Aiden's going to be a man one day. Winter's going to end up with a man one day. And they need to know what one looks like. So I'm going to continue to work on patience, as I feel like that is the biggest downfall for myself. And that's the biggest downfall for Wisconsin sports fans in general. And I would love to change that. Now, I don't have billions of dollars to be able to go on a stage and talk to all of you at one time. So I got to come on my computer every Wednesday and Tuesday nights during Packer season, invite your friends. And I got to talk to you guys in this tone of voice so you guys understand that I'm serious. Now, there are times when I get real animated and I yell and I get excited, and that's just me, right? But when I talk in this tone, I'm being serious. I really want everybody to practice patience. I really want everybody to learn how to love today, because every day that you wake up is a beautiful day. And I'm not going to get religious on you guys, but there's people that, thank God every day for waking up. You don't have to do that. You do whatever the hell you want. But I really do want you to appreciate being awake today, being around your kids today. This is the heaviest part of what I'm going to say, because you never know. Okay? I mean that. I've had friends from high school that died when they were 16, 17, 18 years old. I had a buddy who had a really tough life, and he died when he was 19. That's way too young, man. I mean, we just lost Jacoby Jones. Jacoby Jones was awesome to watch when I was a kid, man.
He was only 40.
He was only 40 years old. I'm going to be 32 in a few months.
Reggie White died at 43.
That's insane. You really never know. A car ride to the grocery store. Seriously. So if you really learn anything from this, love today, love your loved ones, love yourself. Do this for yourself. Learn patience for yourself so you can be your best version of yourself. And as I said here, we all love sports, and sports are the ultimate equalizer in our worlds, right? Let's just be nice to each other outside of that world. Okay?
So here's the thing. There is always going to be, as far as the United States is concerned, there's always going to be something we can unify on.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start just at the team level. We hate the Cubs. We hate the Bears because their fans are annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be damned if I'm watching the Olympics and there's a sprinter from Chicago if I'm not cheering for that guy because he's running for the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to unify at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And even smaller than that, if we're watching a Bears-Packers game, we're both watching football. We talked about, and I said I wasn't going to try to get super specific with examples, but we just talked about Paul Skeens and O'Neal Cruz liking players from a rival team because they're good for the game that we are watching.
Yes.
So when I'm talking about how we can improve, these are things that we are doing, Jake and I are doing, as well as encouraging others to do. These don't have to be just sports. These are real things that you can use in life as well to increase the quality of your life. Number one is being more open to information and more context and consider more before the immediate result or beyond the immediate result.
Mm-hmm.
Be open to more information and consider more context beyond the immediate result. 2, work on asking better questions.
Mm.
It might be one of my favorite things when we have guests on, guests like Mike Spofford and Vinny Rattino, and when we had Craig Kashan on the show. When we have guests on the show and they tell us that we ask great questions. That is one of my favorite things that we get as far as feedback is concerned about what we're doing. That tells me that I'm getting to a point of I know what I'm talking about and I can help other people learn more things. When I get told that I'm asking good questions, that really rises my self-esteem. 3, we talked about this already. We touched on it a little bit. Remember that choosing positivity does not mean that you are blind to truth. It simply means that we are acknowledging that there are multiple truths and we are choosing to we are choosing to look through the lens that best serves our mental health. That's where we say you can be optimistic and realistic. Next, group discussion is beneficial. So we understand that there's a lot of groups on Facebook. Twitter is obviously a large place.
Mm-hmm.
Group discussion is beneficial. It is best when those in the group have different ideas and a common goal. That's why Jake and I and Mike and Simon and Bryant, that's why we do our shows live. We want to encourage others to bring in their ideas and questions and help us get to the point of the common goal that we have, which is to make more optimistic Wisconsin sports fans so that those optimistic people can apply those things to their lives and make more optimistic people, make more optimistic communities, more optimistic state, country, world, etc. Remaining optimistic and finding positive takeaways is a good way to build a foundation of trust within yourself that even when you're struggling, that everything's going to be okay. Jake kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. We're starting with sports. If you can get to a point where you can trust yourself that everything's going to be okay because you are able to reaffirm that in yourself, starting with something simple like sports, and then you can do it when you have car trouble on your way to work and you have to change a tire, everything's going to be okay. You're going to change a tire. You're going to be late for work one day. 2 years, you're not even going to remember it.
Nope.
It's going to be okay. By reinforcing that, just from a lens of sports, after your team loses, you know what? It's going to be okay. Ask yourself, do you want to go forward worrying about what might happen or imagining what could happen? This is one of the perspective shifts that Jake and I took pretty early on with this show. Is it kind of started as a hobby, and 3 years later, we want this for the rest of our lives to be what we do for work all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the perspective shift that we've made. And one of the things that we've phrased this previously is having a possibility mindset. Imagining what's possible. This is a way that you can kind of maybe build some self-esteem as well. Think of yourself as your favorite sports moment. Think about yourself as a walk-off home run or a game-winning touchdown or a buzzer beater.
Or the value.
Or the value. Happy anniversary. Think of yourself like that. Put yourself in that sort of realm to help build your self-esteem. And the last thing I'm going to close with, this is something that I know I've recommended to other people. Brett, if you're watching, I know I've said this to you. I know I've said this to other people. You are going to get to a point when you start working on your positive and optimistic mindset, when you begin putting it on display for other people to see, when you make a post on you make a comment on somebody's negative post and you say, there are better ways to look at this, or you could look at it this way from a more positive way, or somebody's saying that people are being negative. There are going to be times where people will resent you. Plant the flag and stay strong during that. If you need to take some time away from being in the groups of social media, Wisco Fanatics, I can promise you, is going to be a safe space for you during that time of growing until you get to a point where you are solid enough in the work that you've done on yourself, that I can tell you that our pages, our posts, our shows will be a safe space for that. People are going to resent you working on your mindset to be a more positive person, because subconsciously those people know that if others are working and progressing, that while they are saying the same, it really means that they are going backwards.
Yeah.
They are becoming below average because you are getting better. People are not going to like that. You're going to hear things like sunshines and rainbows, head in the clouds, not being pessimistic, just realistic. You're going to hear things like that when you start broadcasting that you are being a more optimistic person. Those are negative people telling lies and telling on themselves. So again, I can promise you that our page, our shows, our posts will continue to be a safe space that you can continue working on your positive mindset without having to deal with the negativity that you're going to see on the broader scope of social media. Until we are at a point where we are a large part of what Wisconsin sports fans really stand for, which is something that we hope to be someday, we're still a safe space for the minority of people who are in the positive. I can tell you it's not the prevailing perspective, but it's the one that we are taking because we are trying to make a positive difference.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, there's not going to be a point where we quit doing this. We've literally had the conversation, Jake and I have, of asking each other, could you imagine a world where we don't do this anymore?
This is part of my identity now.
Yeah, the answer is
period.
This is never going to go away. So it's never going to stop. So if you need a place to be able to express positivity as far as Wisconsin sports or just life in general are concerned, Wisco Fanatics is going to be a safe spot for that.
And honestly, like, I don't have a lot of free time outside of this because I have the Wisco, I have my job, I have my kids. I like to spend a lot of time with my kids, man. I really have made that like a thing that I want to do. But if you guys really need somebody to lean on or just somebody to listen, I got you. I know Tyler's open as well. If you've ever been here, I don't usually speak for Tyler, but I know Tyler is a good man, and he will be there for you if you really need him. He's very quick to respond, much quicker than me most days. I might be wiping a dirty ass or something at that time, so I apologize for that. His kids wipe themselves now; they're old enough to do that. So
Yes.
I just want to tell you, this is really part of our identity. Okay, I recently started a new job within the last month. Actually, today is my 1 month anniversary, so yay! But I got asked, and he said, "Oh, I heard you're kind of a sports guy." You know what my response was to my boss? It's not kind of. I am the sports guy. I'm the sports guy. You ask me a question, I'm the sports guy. And you know, both of us have been born in the 90s. You ask us 90s questions, I mean, some pretty general ones usually. You can get some deep dive ones because we're starting to deep dive into the 90s a little bit. But he was like, I'm pretty impressed that you know some of that stuff because you were born in the 90s. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to tell you, like, we are the sports guys. Like, we're not messing around. So I might have some crazy news coming up here, by the way, but we'll keep you tuned. But just know, this is part of our identity. We don't just
really
talk
is.
about sports. We live sports.
Yeah.
Tyler still gets to play them, but I wish I could.
Yeah, I try. No, I'm all right. All right. So we're gonna say goodbye. This was what we were trying to do, is have like a pretty serious discussion with this.
Mhm.
And I'm proud of you for bringing stuff to it. And obviously, the things we've just discussed, it's real for us.
Mhm.
Tim, we appreciate it. You have a great day as well. And to those watching, listening, if you ever see this, it's not going away. So we'll be here again Tuesday if you follow us on Patreon. If you're subscribed on Patreon, we have a watch party on Tuesday. So that'll be that. And then next Wednesday, we'll be back again. Next Wednesday is going to be some more Brewers recaps and the trade deadline recap as well, or our trade deadline analysis, targets, all of that.
Mhm.
And that'll be next Wednesday. And then we're getting closer and closer to Packer season, like Jake said. Don't get so caught up in looking forward to Packer season that you lose out on the rest of the Brewers season, because they're chasing a playoff spot. And I'm going to have some hot takes coming out in the near future that I think this Brewers team is built to compete, as they are.
Mhm.
So some exciting stuff coming out there. I'm going to make some videos on why I believe that that's the case. But again, you can find us again next Wednesday, 4 o'clock, like always, and we'll see you then.